Good morning, everyone. Paul Ruppel here with Fox 29 News Now. Hope your Friday's off to a great start. We're running a little bit behind due to some technical difficulties, but we are going to take you live to an event where the new majority in the House of Representatives, the Democratic Party, the leadership is holding a news conference to talk about some of their legislative priorities. I suspect they'll be talking a little bit about the government shutdown as well. Let's listen in on what they have to say here.
And at the foundation of our system, it must be strengthened and preserved. There are forces trying to make it harder and more difficult for people to participate. And we must drown out these forces. We must strengthen our democracy. Democrats want to put power back into the hearts of the people. That is why we have introduced H.R. 1. The For the People Act makes automatic registration and mandate nationwide, not just in certain states or in certain counties, but nationwide. We must get there, and we will get there as Democrats. We will get there as citizens of this great country. It restores voting rights to felons who pay their debt to society. I truly believe, deep in my heart and my soul, the way votes were not counted and purged in Georgia and Florida and other states changed the outcome of the last election. That must never happen again in our country. Never again.
Never again. Never again, John. Never again.
We will make it illegal. It also offers federal resources to secure the votes in states and localities around our country. With this bill, it is in keeping with the Voting Rights Act of 1965, where some of us gave a little blood on the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to give any more blood.
No, sir.
But we have our votes. Yes. And we must use our votes as a powerful instrument to change things. With this bill, we demonstrate that this House is for the people, and we will choose the side of fairness, equality, and justice over special interests every time. That's the right thing to do, and we will do it.
Amen. Yes.
Amen. Amen.
Now it is my great pleasure to present a fighter, a warrior, the gentlewoman from the great state of California, a member of the Judiciary Committee, Representative Martin.
All right.
First, I want to reiterate the thanks that we all have for Representative Sarbanes for pressing forward, never giving up, and also for our freshman class for responding and saying this has to be a priority.
Right.
I look out in this audience, I see people who've been working for Fred, others who've been working for reform for decades, and we are on the cusp of getting some enormously important things done. I want to talk a little bit about partisan redistricting. Across the United States, we can see majorities of voters voting for one party, but it doesn't reflect the actual result in the end because of partisan redistricting. You know, we've had bills to require nonpartisan redistricting, really modeled after the California effort, for some years. And I'm not the only person who worked on it. I see Alan Lowenthal is here, and Julia Brownlee, who had bills, and John Barrow, who's no longer a member of our John Tanner. We made these efforts, but now we're in a position to actually move this forward. You know, because of these partisan districts, politicians are actually choosing their voters instead of voters choosing their politicians. That has to stop. We have this bill that will use the Voting Rights Act principles as the guide for how these districts need to be drawn. But there will be no opportunity for the citizens to know the party registration in the areas they're districting, to know where the incumbents live. It's just going to be by the book, fair districts, so that voters have a fair chance to elect the Congress of their choice. It's my hope that these commissions that will fully reflect the diversity of their state and function in a fully transparent, nonpartisan manner will completely transform politics in the United States. And I want it done by the time we have the next congressional elections. With that, the For the People Act are going to deliver the change with campaign finance reform, transparency, voting rights, and redistricting reform. But we have someone here who's worked on so many of these items for so many years, not only as a member of Congress, but as a distinguished professor of political science. And I'd like to introduce him next, Representative David Price.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues, thank all of you for being here this morning, for your interest in what we're undertaking. And it truly is a momentous undertaking, as my colleagues have said. What we're talking about here today is basic to everything else that we need to do. Political reform, far-reaching, comprehensive political reform. And I, as a representative from North Carolina, have a special reason. We're ground zero on so many of these issues, a special reason to understand how important this is. This is a once-in-a-generation blueprint for reforming our democratic system, diminishing the influence of big money in American politics, special interests, and restoring power to our people. It represents the commitment of the House Democratic Caucus to deliver on the promises we made to restore integrity and accountability and transparency to our democracy. I have spent the better part of my career in Congress on the issues addressed in this bill, especially the campaign finance system that allows moneyed interests to dominate and corrupt our politics. The For the People Act will dramatically change that. It will transform the process of disclosure, making it a real process that real people can understand. It will help us shine a light on dark money in politics. It will modernize our presidential public finance system. And by the way, that probably ranks as the most successful reform effort of modern times. And it worked for 30 years, past Watergate. It does need to be modernized, and that's included in this bill. It would establish a new public matching system also for congressional races that would empower small donors. We plan to bolster limits on campaign spending by cracking down on improper super PACs that are all too often affiliated behind the scenes with political campaigns. And we intend to expand my original Stand By Your Ad provisions. That's with apologies to Tammy Wynette for anybody who remembers. Stand By Your Ad. We want to expand those provisions and require corporations and other groups to disclose their top funders. And that should include, of course, TV ads, but also online paid ads, robocalls, and so forth. These reforms are going to empower American voters. They're going to encourage more diverse candidates to run for office, and they're going to help break the stranglehold that big donors have on American politics. So we're proud to deliver on our promise to the American people. We're proud to roll this comprehensive package out as H.R. 1, and we fully intend to do everything in our power to return power to the American people. With that, I turn to one of our outstanding new members who's just been through a campaign and can testify as to some of the rigors and some of the changes that need to be made very, very convincingly. Representative Escobar.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Speaker Pelosi and House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer for their leadership. My name is Veronica Escobar. I am from the great, safe, secure U.S.-Mexico border, El Paso, Texas. And I want to thank Congressman Sarbanes for the incredible privilege of allowing us as new members to be able to sign on to such a transformative piece of legislation. And I'm very proud to have signed on today. You will see in this group of heroes for democracy, who I am so privileged to be standing with, you will see many freshmen. We are hot off a campaign trail that for many of us went on for well over a year. For some of us, it was a year and a half. We spent every single day of our campaigns on the ground, talking to constituents. And I can tell you, speaking for myself and many of my freshman colleagues who I've spoken to over the course of our campaigns, cynicism and mistrust of Congress is at an all-time high. It is at a tragic level when American people cannot trust the Congress that creates the laws that govern their lives. And so we heard directly from our citizens about their disappointment with Washington, D.C. At the very same time, we received our marching orders from them. They have told us they want us to work on an ambitious agenda. They want health care. They want us to deal with the challenges of our generation in climate change. They want comprehensive immigration reform. They want investments in real infrastructure, not a monument to division like a wall. They want real infrastructure projects. But in order for us to be able to sell that to the American public and ask them for their faith and their trust in us, we have to prove that we are trustworthy. And that is why H.R. 1 is so critical. At the beginning of this new Congress, the 116th Congress, at the beginning of a new era in government and governance, we must demonstrate to the American public that we're willing to police ourselves in order to build the big projects and dreams and ambitions that they have for our country. You know, I come from local government. I spent over a decade in local government where we passed sweeping ethics reforms, campaign finance reforms, because if we didn't, our folks would have thrown us out of office. What is unacceptable at the local level has been acceptable in Washington, D.C. for too long. But Representative Sarbanes, thanks to you, that day is over and a new day has dawned. Thank you all very much.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming. I do want to acknowledge there is in this room many, many grassroots organizations and groups that have been part of this effort to restore our democracy really for decades, but certainly over the last few years and the last few months. I want to thank them for their continuing efforts to give people their voice back. Thank you for being here. I want to salute the new members who came to Congress with this message of reform pinned to their chest. They understand it wasn't just a message they were delivering, it was heard as a promise, and that's why they want to deliver on this promise. But I want to close by talking to Americans out there across the country who I know in many instances are hanging on by a thread. Their cynicism is deep, their skepticism is broad, they don't know whether they can get their democracy back. They spend too long on the outside looking in. But as John Lewis has said many, many times, don't give up and don't give in. The Democratic majority wants to give you your voice back with H.R. 1, which is literally for the people. That's the name of the bill. With H.R. 1, we are committed, we are determined to restore a government of, by, and for the people. Thank you all for coming today. Appreciate it.
John, great job.
Hello again, everyone. Paul Ripple here with Fox 29 News Now. You've been watching a press conference where Democrats were the new leadership, the new majority in the House of Representatives, were discussing some of their priorities for the new session of Congress. The top one being their bill, their number one bill, deals with voting rights and reducing hindrances to voting. We tried to get you a little bit earlier the Senate GOP remarks, in part about the government shutdown. Unfortunately, we had difficulties then, so we will try to get you some more reaction as we go through the webcast here. Earlier this morning, a short while ago, the new Democrats who have taken office. Oh, this clip doesn't want to play. Let's see. There we go. Nancy Pelosi joined other new female members of the House of Representatives, new and returning, for a photo shoot on the steps of the Capitol there. There are more than 100 members of the House now are women, and I believe the number's about 113 or 119 members of Congress overall are women. Here's some footage when they got together for the final shot there. Of course, the change in party control comes at a time when there is division in Washington. The government is partially shut down. Employees will begin missing paychecks soon. Those employees who are currently furloughed or out of work at this time. Fox's Doug Luzader had a live report on Good Day Philadelphia this morning. Congress kept the lights on late last night, and the new democratically controlled House didn't waste much time passing a measure to end this partial government shutdown. But that bill is not likely to go anywhere fast. Here is Doug's report.
They had the lights on late last night. This newly minted, democratically controlled House didn't waste any time at all passing a measure to end this partial government shutdown.
The problem is it's going to go nowhere fast, and likely nothing will happen. Let's get down to Washington and Doug Luzader. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. Well, the ball is kind of in the Republican end of the court now, but both the president and the Senate Majority Leader have indicated that this thing is dead on arrival.
And to the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, I extend to you this gavel.
For Nancy Pelosi, this is a familiar experience. She has been through this before, and it didn't take long for her to use that gavel to push through a bill to fully fund the government and end the partial shutdown. But here's the rub. That measure does not fund the president's border wall.
The president cannot hold public employees hostage because he wants to have a wall that is not effective. Not effective in terms of its purpose, not cost effective.
I just want to start off by congratulating Nancy Pelosi on being elected Speaker of the House.
President Trump made an unusual appearance in the White House briefing room, flanked by Border Patrol agents who back his wall proposal.
I have never had so much support as I have in the last week over my stance for border security, for border control, and for, frankly, the wall or the barrier.
And despite the new Congress in town, the math here hasn't really changed much.
It's a difference of just a couple $2 billion, which is nothing for a government this wasteful. It's a ridiculous joke, and this is just a question of when will one or the other feel enough pain in this to lose face, knuckle under, and sign off and let it go.
Yeah, let it go. Will either side be willing to let it go? We may get a better read on that later today because congressional leaders, both Democrats and Republicans alike, are heading to the White House to meet with the president. But Mike and Karen, this is just like the meeting they had the day before yesterday, and nothing came of it.
No, just kind of rambling for 90 minutes. Oh, Doug, real quickly, who do you think what Congress did last night, doesn't that put some pressure on the president?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, this allows Democrats to say, look, we tried. We passed a bill that actually does fund the government. But this is really going to come down to which side the public blames for the shutdown. And that's going to be determined by the impact that people are going to start feeling here pretty soon. Federal employees haven't missed a paycheck yet, but it is right around the corner now.
Really close, yeah. Doug, have a great weekend.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, you too.
Here comes Sue.
That was Doug Luzader, Fox's Doug Luzader, reporting from Washington, D.C. with the latest on the shutdown. We also have Mike Wallace on, the host of Fox News Sunday. Let's listen on his thoughts on where this shutdown could go from here.
Good afternoon. The new Congress is the most diverse Washington, D.C. has seen, with more women than ever before, 100 of them in the House. Lawmakers passed a bill to end the partial government shutdown. That does not include funding for the president's border wall. So, Chris Wallace, did I state that correctly? This is more pressure on the president and some Republicans.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And one of the things they did that's very interesting is they passed two separate bills. One that would fund all agencies except Homeland Security all the way to the end of the fiscal year on September 30th. And then one that would fund the Department of Homeland Security without money for the wall until February. And what the Democrats in the House are saying is, look, all right, let's argue about the wall. And if we have to shut down Homeland Security, let's do that. But why are you holding these other agencies hostage and the hundreds of thousands of federal workers? It's a pretty good argument. Of course, the Democrats, the Republicans would say, and the president would say, well, if we agree and sign those, then we don't have any leverage. So in effect, they're holding those others hostage, using them as leverage to try to put more pressure on the Democrats. But I will tell you, Mike, at this point, neither side feels much pressure. And I think that this shutdown is going to go on. I think the odds are that we'll be talking about this a week from now.
I thought there were quite a few Republicans who liked this Democrat bill, though.
There are two who like the Democratic bill, well, that we know about, who are feeling pressure. And surprise, surprise, they're moderate Republicans, Cory Gardner of Colorado, Susan Collins of Maine, who are running for re-election in 2020 or are already running in tough states, Maine and Colorado, and are worried that this will be used against them, and which is one of the reasons, incidentally, that Mitch McConnell, the Republican Senate leader, he won't even bring it up. So they won't have to take a vote for it or against it. He's not going to even, he says he won't take anything up that unless the Democrats and the president make a deal on it. And he's basically saying we're bystanders here.
Okay. I'll be watching. I'm trying to get my schedule worked out for watching the playoff games. When do the Redskins play, Saturday or Sunday?
Well, the Bears, they play Sunday, correct, against the Eagles?
Yeah, the Bears play Sunday. Against
the Eagles. Yeah. So your schedule will be done after this Sunday. You get to play one extra week.
Okay, then. We'll be watching your show.
Can I quickly say that on the show Sunday, we're going to have a top White House official and also a top House Democrat to talk about this, the shutdown and what's going to happen, and also is anything going to get done in 2019. Then we're going to talk to two new members, a Democratic woman, a Republican man. Maybe new members have new ideas, because right now, this town isn't working.
No, we need something fresh for sure. We'll see you Sunday morning, Chris. Thank you so much. Speaking of our Eagles, Jan.
That was Fox News' Chris Wallace talking with our Mike Jurek about the shutdown and the latest information and where things might go from here. Giving you a live look at the White House right now, we are told that there's a chance that the president will be speaking. There's a camera and microphone set up there. I heard he was... one of the comments I saw was that he could be speaking in the Rose Garden. That's obviously not the Rose Garden. That's the front portico, I believe. But we will keep an eye out for that. Any live events with commentary about the shutdown. In the meantime, here is what the president's had to tweet this morning He said, as I have stated many times, if the Democrats take over the House or Senate, there will be disruption to the financial markets. We won the Senate. They won the House. Things will settle down. They only want to impeach me because they know they can't win in 2020. Too much success. He went on to say, how do you impeach a president who has won perhaps the greatest election of all time, done nothing wrong, no collusion with Russia? It was the Dems that colluded, had the most successful first 2 years of any president, and is the most popular Republican in party history, 93%. And then he went on to add that great jobs numbers have been announced. That's true. The U.S. employers added a stellar 312,000 jobs in December, is the headline from the Associated Press. They dramatically stepped up their hiring in December, adding those 312,000 jobs, in an encouraging display of strength for an economy in the midst of a trade war, slow global growth, and a partial shutdown. Markets have been up as much as 500 points this morning. The Dow Jones Industrial, that is. The Labor Department said Friday the unemployment rate rose slightly to 3.9%, but that reflected a surge in job seekers, a positive for growth. And average hourly pay improved 3.2% from a year ago, up from average wage growth of 2.7% at the end of 2017. So some positive economic news there, helping to stabilize and send the market upward after down days, at least in part due to some of the revised forecast, a downward revision by Apple. So we'll keep an eye out for that. While we're talking about the markets, why don't we get you a look at the Fox Business Outlook from this morning. Toys R Us has to pay up, and there's a shot of the White House again. Toys R Us has to pay up, and GM explores grocery delivery. Fox Business Network's Tracy Carrasco has more in this morning's Fox Business Outlook.
Apple leading the sell-off on Wall Street on Thursday, shares falling 10%. Concerns about a global economic slowdown sinking the Dow and S&P 500 by more than 2% and the Nasdaq down by 3%. Former Toys R Us employees who lost their jobs when the retailer liquidated last June began receiving checks from a $20 million hardship fund established by the buyout firms KKR and Bain Capital. Worker advocacy groups and politicians like Senator Bernie Sanders have been pressuring the firms because Toys R Us did not provide severance payments for its workers. The worker groups estimated that the 64,000 workers were entitled to $75 million in severance based on their years of service. GM self-driving car unit Cruise and DoorDash plan to provide food deliveries with self-driving vehicles in San Francisco. The program, scheduled to start in March, will include meals from restaurants. The company said they will also explore grocery deliveries. This DoorDash pilot marks GM's first attempt in testing the delivery of goods. For more, log on to foxbusiness.com. In New York, I'm Tracy Carrasco.
Again, that was Fox Business Network's Tracy Carrasco with your look at the markets. If we get a live shot of the market up on our feed, we'll bring that to you again. In the meantime, let's talk about this. As I mentioned, some local news. Philadelphia Highway Patrol Officer Andy Chan is recovering this morning after suffering critical head injuries following a crash last night. Our Steve Killey was live outside Jefferson Torresdale Hospital in Northeast Philadelphia this morning, and he caught up with some police officials who gave him updates on the Highway Patrol officer's condition.
Philadelphia Highway Patrol officers like Andy Chan dress different than the other Philly police officers. Highway Patrol officers don't wear those leather jackets, high leather boots, and helmets to look cool and fashionable. They wear all that for protection, just in case something happens like happened to Andy last night. Road accidents are the #1 killer of police officers in this country. And in a motorcycle crash, leather can protect skin and bones. Helmets protect head and brain injuries. And while Kevlar bullet-resistant vests often save police lives in shootings, it wasn't Andy Chan's vest that likely saved his life and prevented even more serious injury. It was definitely his motorcycle helmet. When a 79-year-old man driving this minivan pulled out in front of him on Pennypacker Park's Vaughan Street just before 6 p.m. Did that helmet save his life in this case?
I have to believe it, and I think the surgeons believe it as well. I mean, because when you take into account the significant injury that he sustained. I can't imagine that we'd be here talking today about his convalescence and what have you if it were not for that. And so we're just ever so hopeful that he's going to survive, his injury and this traumatic ordeal, and that someday he'll soon join us again and be able to don that uniform.
Andy is unique in the sense that he is so well regarded and well known. You got 6,500 men and women, some wonderful people, but there are very few who don't know Andy Chan. In fact, and some of you may have seen it, my former colleague and friend Chuck Ramsey came up this evening because he heard it was Andy Chan. And so I think that's speak volumes about his character, who he is, and how much we love and care about him. I mean, and we care about all our police officers. He just happens to be a guy that in his 24 years in the department that he has touched so many people and is such a giving individual, and ultimately, as I said before, just one heck of a police officer.
48 years old and half his life as a Philadelphia police officer. Husband, father of 3, and brother to 6,500. In Northeast Philly, Steve Keeley, Fox 29 News. Back to you.
Very thankful to hear that Officer Chan is on the road to recovery, hopefully. We'll keep you updated on his progress as police are able to provide updates for us. And equally thankful to tell you that although the police department had another close call this morning, we're told that this officer is okay as well. A recruit in his 40s in the Philadelphia Police Academy Training Center, I believe. His heart stopped and had to be brought back. Steve Keeley's report this morning. He eventually wound up at the same hospital as Officer Chan. This officer has not been identified yet. Commissioner Ross and John McNulty of the FOP told camera crew that the recruit officer had a heart attack and was revived at the academy. Several officers flew in with lights on while our crews were there. The officer had a massive heart attack and was revived at the academy. He's now at Jefferson Carsdale Hospital. They're not releasing his name as yet. His wife is there with him. But it sounds like he got to the hospital in time, and we hope that he is on the road to recovery as well. So 2 close calls for our local police department. Let's get you to another local report from this morning. This was Sabita Kriakos reporting. Reports of screams in the street led to a disturbing find, a woman's body burned beyond recognition. Here is Sabina's report on that discovery this morning.
So the really horrific detail is that this woman might have been burned alive, because we know that neighbors heard somebody screaming, and that's actually what caught their attention. They looked out the window and they saw a fire, and that's when they called 911. So let's go to video. This was the 4300 block of Ludlow Street, a residential neighborhood, homes and apartments lining that street. It was around 1:30 in the morning when that neighbor made the call. So the fire department and 18th district officers got to the scene within about a minute of that 911 call, but already the flames had just engulfed this person's body, so much so that actually the fire department did not realize this was a human being until they fully put out those flames, and they realized that it was a woman, although they could not figure out her race or her identity, because they're not sure whether she had any identification on her or if it had all been burnt up. So there was an arson sniffing dog from the fire department who was at the scene, and that dog actually discovered a plastic container sitting on a dumpster nearby, and the dog indicated that there was some kind of accelerant in there, and police actually think that it was gasoline inside of that container. And actually they also, crime scene investigators, found a lighter near the body as well. So here's Chief Inspector Scott Small. He got to the scene just as investigators were beginning their investigation, and here he is talking to us about the horrific realization police and firefighters came to once those flames had been put out.
There's no obvious identification. It's possible, if she had any identification, that it's burnt, because her body was completely burnt from head to toe. She's actually burnt beyond recognition. And when the fire department first pulled up on the scene, her body was on fire. They actually had to extinguish the fire and then realized it was a human body that was on fire.
And this morning, the woman's body had actually arrived to the medical examiner's office, where they're going to try to figure out her exact cause of death, because believe it or not, they're going to need to know whether or not she had any injuries to her body, because it might not have been the fire that killed her. So they're going to be looking for any kind of wounds or injuries, and only when they have a cause of death will they kind of be able to move forward with the investigation. Homicide investigators could take over as well. Right now we have Southwest detectives investigating. They have been working this case, going door to door, looking for any witnesses or any surveillance video in that area, because again, remember, this is a very residential neighborhood. There might have been foot traffic as well, so they're looking for anybody with any information or who might have seen something or heard something to come forward, and they're also going to want to identify this woman as quickly as possible as well. Right now we are at Southwest Detectives. Sabina Kuriakos, back to you.
Thank you to Sabina for that report. Let's take a break from the news and get you a little bit of weather here. You'll see our next weather maker heading into the area there from the southeast. We are expecting a wet Saturday. Should be quiet today, but latest rainfall forecast from the National Weather Service says that through 7 o'clock on Saturday, 3/4 to an inch of rain can be expected across much of our area. Looks like it's a little closer to an inch or more for parts of New Jersey, basically the central part of the central part of the state, on up into New York, Long Island. So we are expecting rain in our area. Let's show you let's first show you conditions outside. You're looking at the Benjamin Franklin Parkway and Eakins Oval on up to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Current conditions, it's 40 degrees outside. Dew point is 30. Winds out of the southwest at 10 miles an hour, so not as high as yesterday. I think it was around 15 miles per hour when we took a look yesterday. Had some problems with our weather graphics last day or two. I've been troubleshooting a lot. But let's see if we have the latest temperatures for you. That looks like they are current. 40s in Philadelphia, 30s in some parts of to our west and north. As warm as 46 and 44 along the coast down there, Wildwood and Atlantic City. 43 in Delaware, 43 in Millville. A little bit warmer, 48 down in Ocean City, Maryland. A lot of 30s up there, though, to our north and east. Baltimore at 44. U.S. temperatures right now, you got an 81 down in Miami is the hot spot, 76 in Tampa, 53 in New Orleans, some 40s along the Pacific coast. It's very cold air out over the Rockies. Salt Lake City, just 17 degrees. I'm wondering if that's right. If Santa Fe is really just 15 while Phoenix is 45, that's pretty impressive gradient there. I tend to not think Santa Fe would be 15, but it's possible. I'll have to check that. Wind speeds, I think these are a little bit off. We're a little bit higher winds right now in the city. Let's take you straight to our 7-day forecast from the Weather Authority. There you see we should get to a high of 48 today. We're calling today, tomorrow, and Sunday 7s, but Saturday is going to come with that rain, 3/4 of an inch to an inch of rain, high of 47. Sunday 48. Monday 37 degrees, overnight low of just 27. That's the coldest point of the week, it looks like. Tuesday high of 54, so we're going to warm up quite well after that. Wednesday high of 44 and Thursday 38. I believe we have been talking about rain chances on Saturday and Tuesday. It doesn't look like we're showing too much there on Tuesday, but we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that forecast. One more look at the rain headed our way from the southeast. All right, here's another story we've been following for a couple days now. Unfortunately, it's a sad one. This is the mummers who were killed in a crash. A Delaware man has been charged in the crash that killed those 3 people in South Philadelphia on Packer Avenue. This morning, a family friend of the victims joined Good Day Philadelphia to talk about them and the efforts to lift up their families. Here is that report from Good Day this morning.
Tragically killed in a car crash in South Philadelphia. 29-year-old Keith Campbell of Delaware faces 3 counts of homicide by motor vehicle. Wednesday's crash killed 31-year-old Dennis Bolandro of Morton. His wife Nicole is seriously injured in the hospital. Also killed 36-year-old Joseph Ferry and his fiancée, 35-year-old Kelly Wisely of Glen Olden. 2 GoFundMe pages have been set up for the victims and their families, and I'm going to tell you more about that in just a little bit. One woman responsible for one of those GoFundMe pages is Ava Graham, a friend of certainly Nicole and Denny. Denny passed away in the accident. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's way more important to be here today because I would like to be able to talk about the GoFundMe page.
Right.
Because right now, Nicole this is devastation.
Yeah.
Devastation.
You've seen her since the accident. How is she doing?
So I actually haven't seen her. I went to see her family.
Right.
And, 40 of her family members. She's very, very close to her family, as is Denny. Mm-hmm. Their families are close. They do everything together, everything. And I walked in, and I was greeted just so kindly, forgiving the circumstances. Like, it's about Nicole right now, and they are just such great people, the Pellicciottis.
How long have you known Nicole?
I've known Nicole since 7th grade.
My goodness.
Yeah, and Denny since 8th grade. So they actually were middle school sweethearts, but they dated off and on. It's amazing. I have this huge group of friends,
There you are at the wedding.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that is me.
So how long ago was that wedding?
So that was about 3 years ago. I'm pretty poor on dates, though, Mike, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But it was I was watching the video of Denny and his dad dancing and, the mummers. It was a joyous, joyous occasion. But anytime with the Pellicciottis and the Pelandros, anytime they get together, they are just such joy. They're offering me food yesterday. Thank you.
There you go.
They're offering, I'm walking through the door, and they're like, what can I get you? And I'm like, I'm lucky. I have such great support, such a great support system, and because, in fact, this GoFundMe page wasn't my idea.
Okay. In fact, let's put that up right away so our viewers can get a chance to look at it there and get that number up, way up today.
Look at them. They're
I know.
Just like they are, Denny and Nicole.
They're beautiful.
The absolute best. They lit up a room. Everyone wants to be around them. Denny is just an incredible person. He was just such a great, incredible person. A great son. He was a great uncle. He just became a godparent to Nicole's first nephew.
Exactly.
So it's just, family is so important to them.
What drew you to Nicole from 7th grade on? Why is she
That's a funny story.
Why is she your friend?
So, I actually don't know why this gorgeous Italian little mini girl came up to me. I was this goofy ginger, I would call myself, and her partner in crime, Colette, You know, we all became friends, and it was the first time that our schools were joining, like different towns were joining together.
Right, yeah.
So I was from Harrison Township, and she was from Sewell. So they were my first friends of a different town.
Wow.
And we've been friends ever since. Right now, Colette Faya, I just have to thank her. And she texted me the day of everything, which was absolute chaos, and said, we have to help Nicole. I need you to set up the page, because she was at the hospital.
Yeah.
We weren't at the hospital, and she was a champ, because she updated us. She let us know everything that was happening, because you see this horrific crash. You're hearing, like, we knew about the crash before we knew it was our friends.
Yeah, it happened about 2 o'clock in the morning, but you had heard that it happened?
Yeah.
And then when did you find out it was Nicole and her husband?
So, a friend of a friend, like, because our, Mike, I can't stress enough, between Denny and Nicole, all of our friends, it is a massive group. So the word got back that there was a horrible accident and that it might have been Denny. Oh. And naturally, we were all dead. My foot's going to Nicole. And just to put into perspective how incredible Nicole's mom, Barb, is, and it's been her dad, Nick, but Barb answered Nicole's phone when I called it and said, I'm in with her now.
Oh, my God.
She has a long road ahead of her. She has more surgeries to come.
Is she awake?
She's in and out.
Yeah.
She's in and out.
She doesn't have an idea what happened. Do you know?
I want to say she's confused. I haven't seen her, Mike, and I don't want to speak out of turn because...
Well, I'm sure only, as bad as she is, only very close family members, like the mom and dad, are the only ones to get in there.
Well, no, they have, Mike, this big Italian family.
They're all around her.
Her cousins, her aunts, everybody. I walked in the room and I was like, you know, thank goodness, you know, WIP let me take a little extra tasty cake.
Yeah, Ava works for WIP.
Yeah,
you know,
which was just crazy because I'm up already.
Yeah.
So we get word of these accidents, and to think that it could possibly be your friends and Kelly and Joe, I have to say to the South Philly String Band, you guys are like brothers or family, and that's what we all are, Mike. We're all family. And some people have been questioning, why is it that we're doing this GoFundMe? We decided as our group of friends, I have, 10 girlfriends who are together in one message, and we decided, you know what? She's been through so much. She's going to have to deal with not having her husband. She lost friends. And then just being the only survivor.
Yeah.
Like, it's just absolutely... we said the last thing we want is for her to wake up and have to worry about money. Like,
exactly.
I don't want that for her. I want her
because you know what's coming once she wakes up. She's going to have to be told, and then... So... Let's try to get that total up as high as we can.
Yeah,
certainly
absolutely, please.
And certainly until we go off the air at 10 o'clock. But then it's going to just stay with it all weekend, our viewers. Like you said, the Mummers are a family. There were 10,000 Mummers in that parade. No. That's a big family.
I mean, I have friends who are reaching out for me in other string bands, Fralinger, you know, Kenny and his wife, Stacy, you know, Denny Palandro Sr., he's the captain of South Philly String Band.
Yeah.
This is their biggest day of the year. This is what brings everybody together. It is a joyous thing. The Mummers are a fantastic thing. And my heart is broken.
It's going to be a reminder now.
I know. How could it not be? And it's all I want now is please, if everyone could pray, if they could donate to the fund, donate to Kelly's fund. We have 2 going right now. The family, Mike, when I walked in yesterday, are so appreciative of what
So just even more reason to get on this GoFundMe page right now and help us. Ava, great to see you.
Great to see you, Mike.
Thank you for having the strength to come in here and do this.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. This is important.
It's
this
important.
is really important, and I love you too, the Palandros and the Pellicciati family. I'm thinking of all of you, and I love you. And
We all are.
Let's raise that money.
All right. Thanks, Ava. Break.
Such an emotional interview there. Certainly hearts go out to the families of the victims. We do have links to the GoFundMe on our website, fox29.com, in the stories, and we will hopefully be posting that interview and have a story up with it and links to the GoFundMe as well. So we'll get you the latest there as soon as we can. One update for you, I am hearing that there have been no official events open to the press announced yet today. However, there's a platform being set up in the Rose Garden and cameras are already present as congressional leaders are visiting the White House to meet with the president. And according to a pool report, the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, is also in the West Wing. So if there are any, anyone steps up to the microphones or the podium, there you see the front entrance of the White House. We will get you there as soon as possible while we're streaming. Now to a happier story, one that a lot of you probably are aware of, but this is a new development in it. It wasn't the Philly special, but something super special happened at the Eagles game in Washington last Sunday. Let us remind you that quarterback Nate Sudfeld threw his first touchdown to Nelson Aguilar, but the cameras sort of missed what happened after Nelson caught the ball. He actually goes up to a young fan in the stands and gives the ball to him. The only problem is Nate Sudfeld wanted the ball. So the boy, 10-year-old 10-year-old Cohen Zekman was a good sport. He gave the ball back and the Eagles gave him a signed ball in return. This morning, Cohen and his parents, Derek and Leslie, joined Good Day Philadelphia, and here is their interview from our air.
Here, Mom Leslie's here. Derek, your reaction is priceless as we all watch this with all the laughs and everything. So what was it like when all of a sudden he comes over? What does he say to you?
He gives me the ball, Nelson, after he scored a touchdown. And then Nate comes over, and he gets Nelson to come back over, and he says, hey, can we have that ball back? We need it, and can we exchange it? So I gave it back to him. And then, like, not even 30 seconds later, they come back and give me another Eagles game ball.
30 seconds later, they had another ball in your hands?
Uh-huh.
Oh, gosh, that made you feel good. Well, I want to know how this played out, because you went all the way down to D.C. Where do you guys live?
Turbotville.
Yeah, how do you say your last name?
Zachman.
Zachman.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a drive. What is that, 6 hours or so?
3 hours to Landover and about 3 hours here.
Oh.
We're in the middle.
Okay, I thought you were north of us.
It is, but the way it works out, it's almost the same to go down to Baltimore as it is to come into Philly.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah.
funny? It's one of those interesting.
How did you get those good seats?
It was just dumb luck. We got them online after the Eagles beat the Texans, and we were supposed to go to the Texans, but we were under the weather, not feeling well. So when they won, we knew it would be a must-win game to make the playoffs.
But once you realized, Leslie, that you had these great seats in the end zone, that's where the touchdown, high fives happen and ball releases happen. Did you kind of think in that way, that if there's a touchdown, our kid might get a ball?
Derek said be ready, so I thought, well, I'll just start videotaping every play that's close to our end zone and see if anything happens.
Be ready.
I think
sure enough.
That was a video we just saw a minute ago. I think that you were taking.
Yes,
it looked like
from
it was your
behind, yes.
perspective. So what goes through your mind? We're like, oh my goodness, Nelson's running over here
I
to
had no
us.
idea what was going on. Like when they started talking, they're literally having like a 5-second conversation, and I'm thinking the game's going on. Like, what are they doing? So I wasn't sure.
Wow, Cohen, when
It was
did you
crazy.
realize he was coming to you?
Well, I saw him like looking around, and then I saw him like look at me, and then he came over, and I knew he was coming like right to me.
Oh,
That's so neat. Is this one signed by anybody?
Yeah, Nelson Aguilar actually.
Oh, that's so neat. So he signed that when they gave you the new one. So what's going through your mind, Derek? Because you're like pretty fun to watch when we see the video, because you're like laughing and in the moment.
He's a little boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't know what was going on. I knew they asked for the ball, and then I was like, oh, is he going to get one back? And Cohen was talking to him. It was pretty cool to see our reactions and not knowing it was on TV at at the time. So it was just an unbelievable day.
So Cohen and Nelson have become fast friends. In fact, he wanted to give you a message here. Look into that monitor right there. I mean, Nate. This is Nate.
Hey, Cohen. It's Nate Sudfeld. Sorry I can't be there today. We got a big game this week against the Bears in Chicago that we got to prepare for, so we're at the facility. Man, I just want to say thank you so much for returning me the football. You know, it meant a lot to me. It's my first touchdown in the NFL. But I was even more impressed with your generosity, you know, giving it back. Man, it really said a lot. You know, your parents did a great job raising you, and I'm really appreciative for that. And I wanted to surprise you. Hopefully, I think Swoop will be right around the corner, hooking you up with some special gifts. And I just want to say thank you so much again for the football and for being such a great Eagle fan. Go Birds. Hey, Cohen.
Wow. Come on over. Sit down. Sit down.
He can sit anywhere he wants.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Karen, let's look into that plastic bag. Looks like there's a lot of stuff. Can you turn it around?
I think that Swoop also has something, a special envelope. Let's see what's in the special envelope. Oh, it's exciting. I'm so nervous right there. Oh,
Cohen, what is it?
Want to read
So,
it?
let me look at it right here.
Turn it around to the camera. It's a special signed picture of that moment with Nate, with the message, with you, Derek, that your face says it all, and Cohen, your face says it all. Absolutely amazing. That is so nice. And I think there's a special letter in the back. There's something else.
I said letter from the owner, Jeffrey Lurie. All right, you have fast friends, Nelson, Nate, and Jeffrey Lurie.
You need to get these framed. Oh.
Look at all this gear.
Yeah, the knit hat. We'll need that one. Legos. I didn't even know they made Legos with Swoop. That's awesome.
Got a rally towel in there. Everything.
Oh, you're going to definitely want that hoodie. That's going to be great for school. And Nate. Cohen plays football, so you're going to be the coolest kid. Oh, he's a great football player. Absolutely.
Cohen, what's the final score on Sunday? The Eagles win?
Yeah. 24-14.
24-14, write it down. That is great.
You
You have such a great family. Thanks for sharing.
High five
that
up.
moment.
You just left Swoop hanging. High five. There we go. Oh, look at your.
So a great moment there from Good Day Philadelphia this morning, as a young man got rewarded for his patience and generosity and returning the ball to the Eagles' third-string quarterback there, as he, I guess he's the backup in that game, but generally their third-string quarterback, Nate Sudfeld, throwing his first NFL touchdown, and the young man being rewarded for his kindness in giving the ball back after Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver, scored the touchdown and brought it over to him. Here is another look at Ultimate Doppler Radar. You see the Rainmaker that's coming our way tomorrow. Hope the rest of your Friday is an excellent one and you have a good weekend. We'll be back with you on Fox 29 News Now on Monday, weekdays after Good Day Philadelphia. And of course, we'll have the latest news for you, updates on the government shutdown, the two Philadelphia police officers who have been hospitalized in the last couple days, last day or two. We'll have all that for you and more on the Fox 29 News at 5, 6, 10, and 11 tonight. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a great weekend.